Welcome to Celebrating Women of Substance. Thank you for joining us. My name is Cheryl Rankin. This week I had the privilege of chatting to Thakirah Allie. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And she shares her story with us. And I'd love you to listen to her story and that it gives you hope and inspiration.
The main thing that I've struggled with was ongoing persistent anxiety from like a young age. Yeah. And what how I helped myself was about so it was ongoing anxiety, and I had known, okay, something's not right, but it was my environment, from studying to going into the workplace, that really aggravated me in terms of um, questioning everything and like how I want to live my life. And so with the anxiety, I had such severe anxiety, even if I was doing well, like I was studying, I was working, I was getting job after job, but and I was working in the film industry for a bit. I traveled, I taught English overseas, so I was doing quite well, I would say, for a 21, 22-year-old. But the anxiety just wouldn't stop. It just wouldn't stop. And so what catapulted me fully acknowledging it was I had come back from living overseas for just over a year, and I've always been quite vocal about women's issues and things like that, but I was confronted with the situation of being a woman in South Africa once I experienced living overseas and feeling safe mostly, and coming back into South Africa, it was like a harsh reality check for me. Like I remember my phone got stolen the first week, the first of my life, because I was so used to not even worrying about that for 1 year. And so what happened was I was I remember this clearly because I made a whole project out of it. So I was on a train to Cape Town from Paarl, a 1.5 hours train ride, because I was on my way to a documentary class. After coming from overseas, I want to start, I thought I wanted to be in the film industry. I thought I wanted to make films, and anyways, at that time I was on my way to documentary class, and a guy gripped my arm as I was exiting the train station, and there was a security guard who was right there, and he had a smirk on his face, and I pulled back, reacted like, what the hell are you doing? But in that moment, I became so livid. I was so angry, and it was like this injustice that just that small moment, like a microcosm of multitude of injustices that that are all around us, and that I just couldn't handle anymore. And so I made a project about catcalling and street harassment, and I went crazy. I probably went crazy because my emotions just took over me, and I was angry and I was upset, and I started getting attention, for the project, but my anxiety for some reason just kept becoming worse for me. And I didn't understand, I'm addressing this issue, but I think it was because the issue was so intense for me, because as I started delving into catcalling, street harassment, it was about culture, and it just got deeper and deeper, and it just became so overwhelming. And I think that did exacerbate my anxiety of just living in South Africa, being a woman. We've got this issue. What do we do? And it's like mentally and emotionally, I was exhausted. So what I did was, and I had a multitude of experiences like the guy grabbing my arm in the areas that I was living in as well in Cape Town. And then I thought, you know what? Screw this. I'm actually moving back home, and so I can figure out. And I had moved out of my house when I was about 18, and I was about 25, actually about 25 or 26 or something. And I moved back home because I couldn't bear to feel unsafe anymore as I walk to the train station, as I get a taxi, or as I go to work. So that became my healing period. And I was like, well, now I've got this thing called anxiety, or I've got we suspect that it was a generalized anxiety disorder, and that all these kind of experiences kind of exacerbated. And I did see somebody, a professional, but she suggested I go on medication, and I didn't want to go on medication because I don't know. It's still something that I'm debating about. But I went on a kind of medication that you can get over the counter, which I thought was bizarre, just to kind of calm the emotions down for about a month. So I did that for about a month, and then after that month, I looked at this box and I was like, screw this. I'm gonna try to figure out it. I'm gonna try to do it my way. And so I did yoga because I was. So the one part of my interest, my fascination is holistic living, holistic health. And so that's why I was a bit apprehensive about taking medication. And so what I did was, for 1 month, I kind of did yoga. I wrote, I connected to myself again by writing. And I got it's an ongoing journey, but the root of it was basically internalizing a lot of the pressures of the world. And I think being confronted, like, you know who you are maybe, or you're trying to the issue that I find is that women, we have a right to self-actualize like any human being. Yes. We are human beings, so we have a right to self-actualize. And when we're working, when we are studying, when we are doing these things that, you know, is freedom for us, and it's interrupted by like men and like the system. And it sounds very simplistic, but in reality, that's how it plays out. You have someone cutting you, you have someone grabbing you, you have like assault that happens daily. There's the fear that's out there. And so then on an existential level, to be a woman, that there's that there's a fear, and there isn't it outweighs the beauty of being female and the beauty of getting to know yourself and connecting with like who you are and connecting with other women. And so that's what I saw, and I thought like, oh my God, like, is this what it's like to be an adult now? Is this like what it's like to be a grown person? Like, it scared me so much. So I changed my lifestyle. I started doing yoga, I started writing again, but I acknowledged, okay, that I have anxiety. I acknowledged it, and I did things that was more like slow living. Like I stayed at my parents' place, and I started realizing that I need to work for myself, or I have to do jobs that is in alignment with me, so that supports women's rights, or where my voice feels heard. And so I did that for a bit, and now I've started my own businesses. And so for me, the self-actualization and having your own business is part of women empowerment, but also it's part of your healing journey of any emotional thing that you are going through. Because when I was so anxious, one of the reasons I would get so anxious because I was overworking myself. But then you become so anxious that you struggle to work. So it's like a cycle.
Yeah, it's a never-ending circle. You just can't seem to get off that wheel. Yeah.
So I would say now, like, the thing that I'm passionate about, or that I want to teach people, is balancing your self-care with your passion or your job, or what do you want to do in this world, like balancing that out. Because unfortunately, there are going to be challenges when we go out there. We can protest, we can do, like, I've done all of those things, but on an emotional level, it's taxing. And so how do we get our power back? We get our power back by acknowledging that we have a right to be happy, that we have a right to care for ourselves. Even if nobody else has ever done it for you, like, you have a right to take a moment to breathe. Like, you deserve to feel good. You don't need to feel this very like negative energy anymore, just because the system is like that, or other people are like that, or that's how the workplace is. It doesn't mean that you don't have a right to add more nurture to yourself and your body.
Right. So now that you've actually aware that your self-care is so important, how do you get through your day?
Anxiety, it's part of our lives. So for some people, it's just become almost like a disorder, but we're supposed to have anxiety because it's there to keep us safe. But if we have experiences where our nervous system is constantly like showing us red flags, for example, if we live like that, then it can become a disorder. In fact, fear helps us to stay alive, because it's telling us, oh, there's fear.
Yeah.
But we don't want to be like that 24/7. We can't be like that when we're at home, whatever. However, some of us do live like that. So I have self-soothing practices. It's not a quick fix. It's not a take a pill kind of, and then I'll be a different person. It's more that I'm on a healing journey, and so I'm honest. I'm honest about everything, and I don't try to deny it, and I'm trying to live more in honesty. And so what I do is so I've been practicing a self-care routine, but this is flowing. So it's always kind of evolving. And for example, like these interruptions, like, people will maybe need your help or whatever. So I flow with it instead of trying to control everything. Yes, because that also causes like more, anxiety. So what I've done, it's a lot of mental work and emotional work. But for example, practically, like for example, I'll wake up and then I will do something that's calm, that makes me feel calm or nurturing in the morning. So it can be a mixture of things. It can be making tea, like so I'll make like a lemon in water, pieces of cinnamon in a tea. And the one thing that I always do is I open up all the windows, I let fresh air in. If the sun is out, I'll sit in the sun for a bit. Sometimes I'll go running. Honestly, it's not a big marathon. It's just like a quick, just to get the blood pumping. And then I'll practice some yoga in the mornings and meditate for a bit, and then do some journaling. And the journaling is more any uncomfortable feelings, it's a space to explore my own feelings, and then maybe how I hope the day would go. But that, is all before work. And then when work comes, I think it's just the energy, but we get into this kind of more hustle, productive energy. I think as a collective, as the world has kind of evolved, I think naturally like that. And so what I'll do is, instead of trying to control that it's like this quiet space, I'll put upbeat music on to make me feel good. So as much as possible, I'm trying to enjoy my experience. I try to eat more healthier. And the other thing I want to say is, when you're a woman, your hormones play a big part. Like your energy levels fluctuate and increase. And so I'm trying to also work according to that. So I flow with it,
Right.
But the one thing I just want to say is, I have the freedom now to do that. I didn't have the freedom before.
Right.
So now I have the freedom to do that. And I know that there's many women who don't have that freedom, who maybe are working every single day at a job. And so my advice for them would be to, when you come home from work, for example, do your self-care in that time. Or something simple that I do is, I do an Epsom salt foot soak, super simple, lavender essential oils and Epsom salt, and then I massage my feet out with castor oil. And it's super simple. Anyone can do it. You just need a bucket, and find ways, even if it's 20 minutes a day, to just give you something that makes you feel like you're filling up your cup, basically.
Right. Yeah. So for me, I mean, anxiety has played quite a big role in your journey. So tell me, what advice would you give to somebody else, another woman who's suffering from anxiety? I mean, just for them to be able to to go, it's okay to be anxious. It is okay to be anxious. It's how you deal with that anxiety is what's going to make or break your experience.
Yeah, the number one thing that I would say is when you're I think a lot of people when they're anxious, they're so judgmental of themselves.
Yes.
I think and that makes them more anxious. So it's like you almost shaming, you're punishing yourself, but it's like you can't help it. Try to approach yourself from a friend and not from a authoritative figure, because a lot of the times we can speak to ourselves like from an authoritative perspective, but that is just based on, you know, how your parents maybe spoke to you. The way that we can sometimes judge ourselves may not be us, our own authentic voice. It may come from all these other authoritative voice. The first thing is that there's just shame. There's like a shame around it. And so I would say like don't like try as best you can not to shame yourself. I know like it's hard. Some people struggle to make it through the day, like just to get any work done because they have so much anxiety. Speaking to yourself like a friend and being like, okay, I feel anxious right now. So what can I do? What tools, what self-soothing activities can I do? And so the one thing that I always tell people is to journal out how you feel. Ask yourself, like, what is happening right now? You know, why do I feel the way that I feel? Even if it doesn't make logical sense, it's more that it's an energy, emotion that needs to come out and be released. Then you can do self-soothing activities, like you can do self-care, you can go for a run. It's also amazing to get that excess energy out. Yoga, anything that's moving your body. And then, of course, speaking to a friend, speaking to someone that you trust, that you feel can hold space for you in your vulnerability as well. Then finding like content, like, so for example, watching listening to podcasts, watching videos, reading things can all create this sort of community that you may not necessarily have in person. Right. But I don't want to disregard therapy, because therapy is also really important. So even though I'm not on medication or anything like that, that was my choice. It doesn't mean that that's not maybe a viable option for anybody else. Maybe that works for you, but I'd say it's a journey. It's everything that you're doing, you need to realize it's a journey. So if you're going to go and speak to somebody, just remember it may take you a while to get to the right professional person to speak to, and for them to give you the right kind of medication. But because I haven't gone that route, I can't say too much on it, but I don't think it's something you should disregard. Like, speaking to therapists also is not taboo. You should like maybe try to do that. And just lastly, there are free forums out there. So if you go into the South African Depression Anxiety group, they have webinars and things that I've seen that you can just connect with. They are free services as well.
Yeah, I think that it's key that this platform is not trying to take away from your therapist and your psychologist, because they do have their place, as I've said before. But there are some people that just don't have access to it. And sometimes, just having a simple person going, I got through this, gives somebody else, enough inspiration to actually go, yes, I can do this as well. And I think that, everybody's situation is completely different. And nobody will ever be able to give you a foolproof, way of getting out of things. It all depends on you, who you are as a person. And I think that that's quite important. That I wanted to stipulate that right up front. That there are places for the professionals, but they're also places just for conversations. And I think that it's important to have conversations.
It can be so like soul fulfilling when you have a conversation with someone around this topic that you're battling with. But just to let you know, like there was times that I thought I would never get out of my anxious, like the intensity of it. and you do get through it, even if your mind is telling you you won't, or you feel so hopeless. You do get through it.
Yes.
But for me, it was focusing on practical things, tangible things that I could do,
Yeah.
and that helped me.
Obviously, anxiety and depression are, they very much work hand in hand. And I just feel that, it's important for people that are going through the depression to see that there are other people out there that have been going through certain situations that have got through it. For me,
Yeah.
myself, I mean, I closed my business because of COVID. And that was a really tough thing for me to do, because it wasn't just I was worried about me. I was worried about my staff that I had to now let go of. And it was a really tough decision for me to make. But I needed to do that. And, I was just adding to the statistics of unemployment. And I battled with that. I went through a deep and very dark depression. And it, having to get out of that I realized when I was looking for somebody to talk to, I had nobody that I could connect with, because nobody that I knew had been through the same thing. And that was when I decided to start this platform, where people can actually connect with other women that is going through similar things, just to go, you know what, actually I can do this. And also to realize that it's okay. If you suffer from anxiety, it's okay if you're going through depression. It's okay if you're going through a divorce. It doesn't mean because you're going through it that, it's irrelevant. That's absolutely not the case. In every situation, I mean, I said that right from the start, is that every story has a place. And, every success has a place, because there's nothing that's insignificant. And it doesn't matter how small or how big it is, it all has a place to play in society, and it all means something.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely agree with you in that way. We all have, I think we doubt ourselves a lot.
Yes.
I think we doubt ourselves a lot, and we think, oh, our voices are insignificant, or, even I went through a retrenchment last year, and I saw all these people like lose their jobs, but people, because I wasn't married, I don't have any children, so for me, I always knew that I want to start my own business, but then just seeing that play out where all these people are losing their jobs, it's tough.
Yeah,
it is tough, like just even being the observer, but even like it only hit me months afterwards that it did actually affect me also. But I think I was just so used to like putting up this strong, it's going to be fine kind of front as well, which is another thing. We also, like, it's okay to be vulnerable, but sometimes out of survival we tend to be strong, which is good, but then on the other side we need that moment to connect to our softness, to connect to that feelings, and be honest about it, because there's valuable information that can come out of these difficult experiences.
But I think it's also our strength. Until you've been through a really tough experience, you don't realize how strong you actually are. And I think that I started another platform which supports businesses that make their own local products, and it was on Instagram. And when I started it, I just thought, it was only about a month that it's been going, but I have been amazed at how many people have actually bounced back from the whole lockdown and the pandemic, and have actually started bringing out their own creative flair that I'm sure some of them are surprised that they even had, and that they've actually started doing their own thing. And I have been amazed at the resilience of the women out there, and the strength that they've actually portrayed, that they've, didn't just take it lying down. They actually said, well, I've lost my job, I'm just going to do something else. And they've gone and done it. So to me, it's been an incredible eye-opener to see the journeys that some of these women that have gone through, and, the fact that they've just taken the bull by the horns and just went for it. And I just think it's amazing. And I've just watched the resilience, and I'm blown away, absolutely blown away by the women in this country. It's been phenomenal.
Yeah, I can definitely like, yeah, I completely understand, because I was also watching. I was actually part of a female entrepreneurship, a 12-week entrepreneurship program, which just ended about last month. And again, watching all these women with their businesses and their products, and it's inspiring. And I love small businesses as well. Like, I love knowing what our people are making as well.
Yeah.
And that's like also where you can take your pain and your all the negativity that you felt, and you can transmute that energy into something beautiful, or a service that could help someone else. And that's where you can get our power back as well,
Yeah.
through entrepreneurship, starting your own business, or even if it's just something small on the side.
Yeah.
Seeing where it takes you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that there is so much out there that, that's untapped. And I think that, by allowing people to express themselves, or women in particular to express themselves, and, realize that there's a lot more strength in there than they give themselves credit for. And all you need to be is to be vulnerable, allow yourself to be vulnerable and connect with who you actually are. And, you're not your job. You're not just a wife, you're not just a mother, you have valuable input to give. And I'd like everybody to be able to have the opportunity to input into somebody else's world. And I think it's a valuable platform.
The one quote that I have been working on for the last several months, or the one thing affirmation that I use, is I am enough.
Yes.
And because I noticed that I was dealing with this limiting belief, or this thing, or this block, or whatever it was, where I don't feel like I'm doing enough. Like, I don't feel like I feel enough in every area, and personal, job. It's like, and then I was like, nope, let's like rework this. And so I am enough. Like, it just, I kind of say that to myself, like, every morning, like, I'm enough, and I'm also safe. I'm safe it's also very important for somebody that struggles with anxiety, to be like, I'm enough, I'm safe, and to just ground yourself down in your moment. Then the one that I really love, so this is a quote by a radical feminist, Audre Lorde, from back in the day, and American writer. And I don't know exactly, but she would say, it was something around like, self-care it was self-care is an act of self-preservation. Like, there was some other stuff, but that was the gist of it. It's an act of self-preservation. And that's like an act of political warfare. And basically what that means, like, for me, it resonates, because when I was younger, when I was like 19, and I think I had my first boyfriend when I was about 19, and I would say things like, oh, I need a self-care, and I would use the same words, like, out of self-preservation. And I didn't know what I meant at that time. And I remember saying that specifically, and you were just looking at me like, what are you talking about? And then years later, I came across Audre Lorde's quote, and I was like, oh my God, like, someone else like has said this thing, and or it's maybe in alignment, or I don't know, she like has the same thought process or something. And I felt connected to it, because she was saying, like, as women, but she was a Black woman specifically, and she was lesbian, and for her it was like a political act, to care for herself as well. And she also went through her own struggles with being ill, like physically ill and things like that. And for me, on a subconscious level, I saw women, struggling like physically, emotionally, but they wouldn't take the time, or they wouldn't acknowledge the right that they have to say, hey, I'm struggling. Like, hey, I need care. And so in my mind, always as I've grown up, it's like I have to protect myself, I have to care for myself. It can get exhausting. So the one thing that I'd say, like, the three things is, I'm enough, I am safe, and the last one is that, like, self-care is an act of self-preservation. So you don't have to feel ashamed or bad when you are basically trying to care for yourself.
Right. I mean, that it's really strong, powerful words, because I think, you know, to know that you're safe is a vital need, you know, for everybody. And I think that, you know, especially with you suffering from anxiety, to actually believe that is the only way that you're going to move forward, you know. And I think that it's a vital, vital one. And yes, self-care is a form of self-preservation. And I think that, you know, it's an amazing mantra to have. So I want to thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you, Thakirah. We really enjoyed listening to your story. And I'd love to hear if that story inspired you in some way. And also, if you have a story that you would love to share that you feel would inspire women that are in a similar position to you, we would love to chat to you. And I just want you to remember that no story is insignificant and no success is irrelevant. And I think it's important that we remember that. And we would love to chat to you, and we'd love to share your story with the women around the globe. Thank you for joining us today.